Good afternoon and welcome to Embridge Consulting's webinar, The Future of Digital Learning. Your host today, myself, Tracy Adams, Sales and Marketing Manager for Embridge Consulting, and Karen is joining us as our guest speaker from Glad Solutions, part of the Embridge Consulting Group. Karen is our e-learning specialist. Just a little bit of housekeeping with regard to the webinar. Please use your chat button to ask questions throughout the webinar. We'll pick those up at the end of the webinar in our Q&A session. Your webcam and mic are currently disabled, but do use those chat buttons so that we can keep in touch with you. We're anticipating that the webinar is likely to take around 40 minutes. If you haven't joined Embridge Consulting before for one of our webinars, you may be new to our organisation. Embridge Consulting offer advice and support on business systems. We are experts in the Unit 4 Business World application and are an approved system integrator partner for Unit 4. We have a team of over 60 consultants now with over 20 years experience working with the Unit 4 products, leaving us ideally placed to support our customers. Since starting the business in 2009, the team has grown, covering all professional consultancy aspects: HR, payroll, finance. There are a mix of business consultants, technical consultants, implementation specialists, report developers, and of course, trainers, e-learning specialists, and project managers. So where do Glad and Embridge come together? Well, Embridge acquired Glad in 2017, and prior to that acquisition, we had been working with Glad Solutions on many e-learning projects. We've designed over 100 Unit 4 Business World courses for clients already. We've also started to introduce a series of standard e-learning courses, including GDPR, health and safety, cyber security, and we'll be continuing to developing our e-learning offering going forward. Without further ado, I'd like to hand you over to Karen, who will take you through the webinar for today. Over to you, Karen.
Lovely, thank you, Tracy. I'm just going to share my screen and I hope you can all see that. So the future of digital learning in the workplace. First of all, I'll just introduce myself. As Tracy rightly said, my name's Karen Farragalla and I am the e-learning manager for Embridge Consulting. My experience is in learning and development, and I was just thinking, how did I get involved in digital learning? Is sort of back in the late 90s, early 2000s, the organisation I was working for was growing and more people, and it's become more and more challenging to get out to meet these people, to train them, and what they needed to know was also increasing. So really introducing learning technology was a bit of a no-brainer. So the ability to reach out to a wider group of people to meet their needs. But thinking back to the very first sort of connection I had with digital learning was really actually doing things like webinars and online chat forums. And I think this webinar that we're doing today will see just how far we've sort of come from that position, which actually isn't that far away. So today we're going to talk about why the workplace is changing, what those changes are, and what digital learning solutions are out there. So what do we actually have access to? How can we use these digital learning solutions to really enhance the skills of our workforces? And any questions as well that you've got, you can send to us and we will get back to you on those. So without further ado, let's kick off. And first of all, think, what actually is digital learning? So I've already, in the introduction there, just said a little bit about webinars, very early sort of digital learning, but I had a look to get a definition of digital learning, and this comes from the Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development. Anything really that's learning, training that's delivered or enabled via technology. So lots and lots of different things out there. You may have different experiences in your organisations of different types of digital learning that you take advantage of. But just a brief list there, any sort of websites, ebooks, online communities, as well as e-learning as well, which is my area of speciality. So as I said, think about what current digital learning does your organisation do? Are they using it at all, using it in different forms? Is it a formal sort of form of digital learning, or is it just digital learning that people are seeking out for themselves? For example, YouTube clips. There's all sorts of digital learning out there. So at the moment, we have online e-learning, videos, ebooks, webinars, discussion forums. I don't know if anyone's come across MOOCs, which are massive open online courses, free courses on a whole range of topics that are on a global scale. So that hence the massive term there that you can sign up to. Lots and lots of apps being developed for learning as well. And as apps become easier and quicker to develop, you see a lot more organisations taking advantage of them. So why is digital learning so important? I think for me, it's the benefits of it reaching out to its audience. So it can be accessed by large groups of people, spread across a really big geographic region. So it makes it a lot more cost effective than delivering face-to-face classroom-based courses. And it can also enhance those classroom-based courses as well. So it's not just doing a piece of digital learning. You can go on a face-to-face course, then it can be backed up by a piece of digital learning to reinforce that learning, or even before you attend the course. We have a number of clients that ask us to produce e-learning for people before they actually attend a face-to-face course. So the time spent in the classroom is a lot more productive. And digital learning provides a great consistency of message as well. It's there, it doesn't change for each person that sees it, so you get that real consistency of the message that you want to get across in your organisation. So just a couple of points of why it's really important in this day and age, and it's all changing. So what's happening in the workplace, that means the way we approach learning also needs to change. In this webinar, I'm taking the point of view from two sides. People and our approach to work is changing, and technology is changing as well, which means the way we look at digital learning needs to change and make sure that we're ready for and that our learning for the future is ready and robust, that we're not having to constantly update stuff. It doesn't become too out of date, that we're looking to the future to make sure that what we build now can be used. So I'm going to take it in two stages, as I said, people and the technology. So first of all, if we look at people, our approach to work is changing. And I think there's a lot of talk out there about different generations. And you may have seen lots of talk about how different generations learn in different ways. I think a lot of studies that I've read recently really debunk this theory. We're all people, we all learn in the same way. I think actually what we're talking about is different generations, we have different experiences. So those experiences may affect our expectations and our motivations in the workplace, rather than we actually all learn in different ways. I think it's what we've experienced and what we need in the current workplace means that we might need different things. So I'm going to take it from that stance. The experiences we have, as I say, make for different workplace expectations and motivations. So if we look at different generations, we can sort of see, I'm going to look at different generations in terms of their experience of technologies. So we can see that our expectations of when we get into the workplace may be very different from someone of a different generation. Let me illustrate that. We've got different generation types that are in the workplace currently. So we've got baby boomers born before 1965, Generation X, they're born between 65 and 79. Millennials born between 1980 and 1994, and then 1995 afterwards, Generation Z. So you're probably thinking, which one do I belong to? There we go. Let's have a look, not look at baby boomers. I'm going to start off with Generation X and think about the technology that people who were born in Generation X grew up with. And I have to confess, this is me. So my experience there of big, clunky computers, only just started to have personal computers when I was at school. And I was actually the first girl in the computer club at school. All the rest were boys. So I've always been interested in technology. And just an illustration there of the sort of graphics that Generation X may be familiar with from when we first saw computer games. I don't know if anyone remembers this one. This is taken from Jet Set Willy. So on the Spectrum, that's my first personal computer. So, computers, they were big, they were clunky, and fantastic graphics. So that's our sort of expectations that were from when we entered the workplace that we had. Then moving on to millennials, or sometimes referred to as Generation Y. So used to more gaming machines, the event of iPads, of tablets, and as you can see here, graphics getting better. I don't know if anyone recognizes that's from The Sims, a very popular computer game. Some of the younger people in the office told me for their generation. Things are getting smaller, things are getting neater, things are becoming more advanced. So the millennials are actually the largest living generation at work at this moment in time. So there's been lots of studies done. I think if you Google millennials, you'll find loads and loads of information and reports on what millennials like in the workplace and what their expectations are. And I just pulled out one here. Being motivated by looking for opportunities at work, looking for excellent training and development programs. So those coming, more importantly than good benefit packages, for example. So it's not just financial gain that's motivating people in the workplace. It's the training and the support that they would get. Hence why learning technologies are really important that we keep up in our organisations with people's expectations. So that's millennials. And then we move on to what comes after millennials, Generation Z, which are just entering the workplace now. So the oldest of Generation Z was just entering the workplace now. So these are what is referred to as digital natives. They are used to technology. They haven't experienced a time before smartphones at all, a lot more familiar with social media, and this is the largest living generation in the world. So we need to be making sure that in the workplace we're ready for these people and their expectations and their ability to use technology. But it's not just Generation Z, because of course already there's another generation coming up. So what generation comes after Generation Z? Well, there seems to be a lot of debate on what that generation will be called. So I didn't come to a consensus at all on what that generation is going to be termed. But I just think if we reflect, if anyone knows or has children under the age of 12, just think about how familiar they are with technology. You've got a 3-year-old who can navigate their way around tablets and smartphones without even thinking about it. When I was speaking to a secondary school technology teacher recently, they were telling me that pupils starting IT lessons at secondary school, they were really unfamiliar with desktops. And when he asked them to copy and paste using a mouse on a desktop, they just looked at him blankly because they were so used to touch screens on tablets. Technology advancing really fast, but I think the one thing we definitely say for certain is that future generations are going to be even more tech savvy and their expectations are going to be high. So if we just have a quick reflect on what's out there currently and what's being developed, I think even in the last 10, 15 years, you've all what's out there now that people use on a day-to-day basis. YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all ways that you can use technology to enhance your learning. TED Talks, really popular, and people are sharing those a lot. Ability to hold webinars, conference calls, so we don't actually have to be physically present at all, but all helping us to connect with each other and learn from each other. So I don't know if you want to take a very quick moment there just to think about the technology changes that you've seen in your lifetime at work. 20 plus years that I've been in work, it might be a bit longer than that. Or if you've only been in the workplace 5 years, I bet you've still seen a lot of changes. So why is it important? So you think about all those changes in technology and how that reflects in the workplace, enabling us to be more flexible in the way that we work, allowing us to work remotely, a lot more of bring your own devices to work. So a lot of organizations now tapping into the fact that for people are bringing in their own tablets, their own smartphones, and being able to use those to access technology and learning technology in the workplace. So because of this technology and the changes in the workplace, we know that the world of work is changing. So a few quick statistics here. 45% of people more often working in diverse teams. So you're not just working with people in the same office as you. You may be working and connecting with people on a regular basis from the other side of the world. People were even working with virtual technology, social media tools, and incredibly, 44% there of employees working primarily using mobile devices, laptops, tablets, smartphones, switched on all the time with our technology. So along with that, our expectations are changing. So the expectations of what people want from work, what people want from their career and what they're looking for. So an incredible 69% of people there looking for personal and professional development. So organisations need to think about this if they're going to keep their people. They need to invest in their people, need to invest in our learning technologies to help people in their career progression, help them in their professional development. This is why it's important that we understand what's out there in terms of learning technologies and how we can use that within an organisation. As well as individuals' expectations, also employers are thinking that the way people work, the way people learn needs to change. So we've got this statistic here that 67% of employers believe that their employees need to learn faster because of the changes in the workplace, because there's connecting with people in different parts of the globe, because we're working remotely. All of that sort of comes into an expectation of people picking up information quicker and faster, that people need to learn as well quicker. So our expectations of the technology have changed as well. I don't know if anyone has used the really good app Duolingo, which fantastic way to start to learn a second language. But that has a great user interface. This is a great example of how technology can enhance your learning. Even if you haven't done anything like learning a language, but there's things like Candy Crush out there, computer games, really advanced technology that we're using outside of the workplace. So therefore, does our learning in the workplace look like this? Or is it old? Does it keep up? Does it match our experience outside work? I don't know if you just want to think there about what does your current digital learning at work look like? And does that look like your experiences of gaming that your kids are doing, that you may be doing yourself? Is there a mismatch there? I bet there is in some cases. So the challenges are, how can we help employees pick up those skills and knowledge and help them learn faster? How can we keep up with the technology? And are our workplaces ready to meet the changing needs of people? But also, there's that big factor as well. It's still got to be cost effective. So we may not have the, I think most of us are probably sitting there thinking we haven't got the big budgets that they have to create computer games. But there are other things we can do, which I'm going to talk about as we move through this webinar. We do need to move beyond that click next reputation that e-learning and some digital learning tends to have. Otherwise, we're going to run the risk of having a really disinterested and disengaged workforce that are just opening and carrying out the training because they've been told to, not because they want to, and therefore not taking in the information that we're sending out. So we need to tap into these current learning technologies. At the moment, if you do a search for current learning technology trends, you'll probably come up with a very similar list to this. So I'm going to look at these in turn. So microlearning, personalization, social learning, gamification, interactive video is a great one, VR, AR, AI, and next-gen learning environments. So I'm going to have a look at these, and I've got some examples as well to show you. So virtual reality and artificial reality, opening up real world experiences for people without actually having to be there. So if you think about if you've ever been on a classroom course, happen to do role play, this is taking role play to the extreme. So a real way that digital learning can, make and provide solutions for a changing workplace without having to actually recreate in reality place and experiences, but tap into that. Artificial intelligence, you may have already come across the use of AI. So I don't know if anyone's been on a website and you get a little message pop up, someone saying, "Hi, can I help you today?" That's all artificial intelligence, it's chatbot, and they're being used increasingly in learning management systems as well. So you can have a little chatbot pop up in your learning management system, say, "Hi, did you find the training course you were looking for today? What skill are you looking to enhance at the moment? What are your training needs? Let me help you." So starting to use that in the workplace as well. So, next generation learning environments is taking learning management systems one step further. So, you may have a learning management system that looks very much like a website, and this is taking them to the next level. So, introducing things like gamification elements and leaderboards. So, every time you carry out a piece of training, you might get rewarded points or a badge. You may see yourself become top of your organization in learning. You may have got the most points in a quiz, which gives you extra points and an extra badge. Badges that can be added to your profiles, LinkedIn profiles as well. So it's not just internal within a work and can be external as well. Next generation learning environments that have a lot of social aspects to them as well. So increasingly we're seeing people learning from each other. So it taking that learning the job not just from the person who sits on the desk next to you, but learning from people right across your whole organization. So people sharing information, not just in forums, but they may be uploading and sharing content that they've recorded themselves as well. And next generation learning environments also have the ability to personalize the experience as well, and of course can be used on smartphones and tablets. So I talked a little bit there about gamification, but gamification, just to explain that a little bit further, is about techniques to use in learning technologies that are similar to gaming experiences. So things like collection of points, achieving points to unlock more information, etc. And even when you go and buy a coffee, some places are tapping into gamification experience. So when you have the little cards that collect reward points and you get a free coffee after you've collected 10, that is gamification. So you can use that in learning technology as well. So I've got a short example here for you of something that we have built for MasterCard here. So you can see it's a quick fire quiz. So you've got a timer counting down. You've got points in the top right-hand corner there, adding up if you get them wrong or right. You don't get as many points, obviously, if you get it wrong, but you get a lot of points if you get it right. It's all adding up to an experience. think we've got one more question and then we'll find out how well we've done. There we go, we've got them all right, and we unlocked a reward badge as well in this one. So that's just a short example of some gamification that can easily be built at an inexpensive price into some digital learning. There's an increase of different tools out there, learning technology tools that people can use to enhance your learning technology offering within your organisation. So software like a SEMA that clones your environment. So if you're particularly great if you're doing software training, you can clone the environment so people can play in your system without affecting the live system at all. Lots of rapid authoring tools that are fairly inexpensive in the grand scheme of things to create digital learning. Video recordings and then you can actually make them interactive with the use of these rapid authoring tools. You can actually almost recreate your sort of your world without a massive price. So, how can you use digital learning to upskill your employees? So, making technology available in a cost-effective way so you can use and produce content to pass on the knowledge and skills within your organisation. You know, I've seen some fantastic examples of virtual reality, but I think, you know, I don't know how many organisations are going to be able to afford to, have virtual reality created for them. So how can we do it in a cost-effective way and still give people the experience that they're looking for? So you can do this through personalisation, through user-generated content. So people, become familiar with using iPads and smartphones to do little recordings of their own, upload it to learning management systems or next generation environments to share. Even you can even use your own intranet to share that information. Ebooks are a very cost-effective way and great way of getting a small bite-sized piece of information out to people, particularly in use for mobiles as well. So personalization, for example, can be very effective and works on lots of different levels. So really personalizing the learning experience for the user, which increasingly you see on websites, all that information that is gleaned from us whenever we go on a website through the use of cookies and that to give you that more personalized experience to tap into the advertising of what they believe this person's going to need. We can start to use that in a learning technology situation. So from really basics like people being able to select a character as we have in this screenshot here. So people can choose a character, choose a scenario that really helps them relate to that learning. Oh, look, that person has a similar job title to me. I can relate to that more. That person is in a certain situation like I am. I can relate to that more. And you can use personalized pathways through learning as well. So depending on how much people know, you can point them in certain directions. You might start a piece of digital learning with a quiz so you can evaluate how much that person knows before pushing them down a certain learning journey so they don't have to go back through loads of knowledge that they already know. Particularly useful on training that people have to do annually. So first of all, you start to assess what they need to know before you start showing them everything, which actually leads us quite nicely onto the next one. So increasingly popular and comes out the top of a lot of polls at the moment in learning trends is microlearning. So real bite-sized pieces of standalone information tapping into what people's expectations and experiences of looking up a quick YouTube clip. You want to change the brakes on your car. Our brake pads on my car. I'll just look a quick YouTube clip to see how that's done. So it sort of taps into that experience that people have and bringing that into the workplace. So this is a quick example of microlearning that we've put together for this webinar. So as you can see, this is taking all of about three minutes, if that, to go through. So microlearning is, 5 minute bite-sized pieces of information that you can use again and again as resources, as reference tools, as well as a piece of learning. So yeah, nice quick example there for you. I think I've already mentioned this, but user-generated content. So you can use your LMSs to push out information that people have generated themselves. People can recommend things like TED Talks, podcasts, increasingly popular as well. So tapping into people learning it on mobile devices. People might listen to a podcast as they're traveling on their way to work or between meetings, using that time really efficiently to carry out a piece of learning. And I'd be remiss if I didn't as well just take a little bit of an opportunity to show you some of the work that we've been doing on Unit 4. So we've been putting together some off-the-shelf courses on Unit 4. So using learning technology, producing a piece of e-learning, walking people through different processes in Unit 4 using a tell me, show me, try me. So telling people what they're going to see, showing them, and then they get to have an opportunity to do that in the try me as well. So people sort of can get hands in and find their way around the system without messing up your live system, without, as we see this is an expense one, without claiming loads of expenses. In reality, they can actually have a go at doing one first of all. So if you sign up for access to our Learning Sum, you will see an example of this further. So just to recap there, future of learning, there's lots and lots of changes in technology, and we've seen lots of those changes just in our individual time within the workplace, which has also brought about changes in our expectations and work cultures. Learning technologies have really evolved. When I first became interested in learning technologies, I did a certificate in online learning. It was nothing even as sophisticated as this webinar. I think we were just sort of phoning in almost on conference calls, and we had a little forum set up, and that was about as far as it went. And then from a couple of years' time, it was all e-learning, and that has just evolved so much. It used to be you had to pay a fortune for e-learning. There was only a couple of companies that did it, and they would charge you for it, and the time taken to deliver that, it was just not cost effective for lots of organisations. To where we are today, where we're turning around projects sometimes within a month for people. But because everything's moving so quickly, your digital learning needs to keep up to date, because people's expectations, not from outside the workplace, they're bringing into the workplace. So we need to make sure our digital learning is looking as attractive as what people can see outside the workplace. some of those things that are outside the workplace we can use in the workplace. You know, the Duolingo app I mentioned earlier. There's, you know, you can use that in a business environment. You can make that available and accessible to people within your organisation. It's becoming a lot more accessible, a lot more cost effective, and digital learning is great for some software simulations there as well. So, what is the future? I'd say it's already here. So, if you have any questions, please send them on and we will get back to you and answer those. So, I'm going to hand back over to Tracy.
Thanks very much, Karen. That was fantastic. Well, I hope you all felt that that was a really interesting webinar. I certainly found it fascinating, especially a look back over some of the technologies that we had many moons ago. As we say, session, please send over your questions for our Q&A session and we'll get back to you with a response on those. Okay, if you would like to access the free sample website that Karen mentioned earlier, please send your email to inquiries@embridgeconsulting.com, where we can actually provide you with a login for the free e-learning sample site that we showed you earlier. So please drop us an email to inquiries@embridgeconsulting.com. Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, Karen, for taking the time to share your experience on digital learning.
Thank you for listening.
This webinar will be available on demand and will be available to you fairly shortly. Thank you once again. Goodbye.